Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 6 of the Airfix Avro Vulcan B.2 build, scale 1/72. In part 5 I worked on the airframe, scratch built the engines. So in part 6 I'll be carrying on with the airframe and more scratch building to be done, particularly the fuel tanks. So let's get into this. I'm starting off with cutting some plastic card. I've marked out a piece here and just taken it off with my knife. And these parts are for the leading edge of the wing. So it's the airframe that's going to be running right up to the edge of the wing. These will be tapered down, slanted down slightly. So once it's cut off, I'm just taking my pencil and drawing a circular line from the corner to the top edge of the piece of plastic that I've got, just checking it to fit, to make sure it'll fit, and then I'll simply just snip off the excess plastic here up to the line. I'll then just take my file and go over the part down to the line, just getting that curved shape that I want. The edge that's going onto the beam has to be tapered down to fit on the angle. So I'm just doing roughly a 45-degree angle, taking a rough file and putting a chamfer on it really, so that it will make contact with the beam and I'll be able to attach it then. Once I'm happy with the fit and size, I'm just drilling the weight saving hole. So just using my pin drive and putting that in as a pilot hole. First of all, then taking my knife and opening up that pilot hole just by twisting inside the pilot hole and enlarging the diameter. And once I'm happy with it, it's just a simple case of placing it on, making sure that it goes in line with the horizontal beam there. And I'll carry this on the way, all the way down the wing, as you can see here. The rear of the wing is the same as the front. The only difference is the struts are getting tapered down instead of curved, just to conform with the actual wing. And here I'm using a strip of card just to keep within the line of the front struts here. So I'm just placing it on, marking off where the rear strut has to go. So I'm just placing the last one on now, and actually it was at this stage I realised I made a bit of a mistake. I placed in all these struts, but I forgot to drill in the weight saving holes, so that's going to need to be addressed. As you can see, I've taken it off the wing and I've splayed open the struts that I've previously put on to get my pin drive in to make the pilot hole. Then I'm opening it up by twisting my knife in. It is a little bit annoying, but it was a mistake that I made. The parts that are splayed open will easily be refitted. It's not a problem. But it was good that I noticed the mistake now rather than later on. The next stage is to cut similar pieces of sized struts and place them in between these struts I put in that support the leading edge of the wing. Once I've checked for fit, I shall be drilling the weight saving holes in each section before placing it in. Now, I'm placing these in at the diagonal, corresponding with the beam that holds the main struts. So as you can see here, I'm coming to the end of it. The shape of it is such that it will go out, then come back in, working with the contours of the actual wing. So now I'll just lift it up and have a look, make sure everything's okay, that I'm happy with it. And there it is there. That's the main leading part of the wing done. But now I'm going to be building the fuel tanks, hence why I've got to bring up the picture here. These are the 3 fuel tanks. Now I've only actually got room to put in 2 in here, unless I make them smaller. But making them smaller will cause me a bit of a problem, so I've opted just to put the 2 in. And how I'm doing this is I've taken a piece of plastic card, roughly the diameter of the cavity where they're going to fit into. I'll be needing 4 of these strips of plastic card. If you're doing this, make sure your plastic card is not too thick, because you'll be wanting to bend these in position. For the initial shape, I'm taking my eraser and just bending the card around the razor to get the basic shape of the fuel tank, and then folding it into itself like so. Now this is very tricky to do because you have to marry up these two ends and join them together. Now I've tried various ways of doing it. I've put in just a bit of glue and held it. I've supported the joint with a piece of plastic card underneath to hold it. They all work to various degrees, clamping it up and so forth. But I've actually found just holding it until it sets does work. It takes a lot longer, but once it started to set, I'm just placing it into my lock and tweezers here to hold it, and that seems to work best. So once it's set, I just filed down the leading edge to make sure it was all nice and level, and then I'm taking another piece of plastic card and just tracing around the actual shape of the fuel tank. Make sure that you do each side separately, because undoubtedly it's going to be a different shape on each side. This is only rough, it's not meant to be 100% accurate, because I'm just doing it by hand and not using any particular tools to do this. I'm trying to do it in the most basic way I possibly can. So once I've got the outline traced, I'm simply going to cut away any excess before placing it on the edge of the fuel tank. And once it's attached, I'm just taking off the excess using my side cutters before filing it down to the contours of the actual shape. So just a rough filing first of all, then I'll go down the various grades of files until I get it nice and smooth. Before I carry on with the fuel tanks, there's one or two little bits I have to do first of all. Firstly, there's a little sidewall that's going to be running down the side of the engine. So I've taken another piece of plastic card, just taping this down to the sides of the two support beams, and then just placing it in where the engine runs along. As you can see, I've already cut off the temporary supporting strut so that it'll run along the engine. This is where the fuel tanks are going to be sitting. And before I secure the other beam, it's time to drill in more of the weight saving holes. So this is done like every other one, using my pin drive, then putting my knife in to open up the hole. Now the weight saving holes are drilled, I can put in the support beam now, secure it into place. Now it's back to the fuel tanks, and I've got a piece of string here. Well, this is actually a rope that I use for rigging shapes. And first of all, I'm applying a little bit of super glue on the fuel tank. Then I'm laying down the rope onto it, and this will give the raised definition patterns that you see on barrels and things like that. So I'll secure one end, then just wrap it around until I meet the end where I began, and then cut off the excess. So I'm left with just a band of rope going around the fuel tank, and I'll be the same with the opposite end of it, and this will give me the two bands. So that's the desired effect I'm looking for, and that's ready to be painted now. And they're getting painted in Revel Aquacolor 90 Silver. The first one's dry, so I'm just placing this in, but this is going hard against the retaining wall that I put in next to the engines and up against the main beam. The second one will go directly below it, but this one gets attached right onto the first one I placed in, as well as getting cemented onto the retaining beam next to the engine. While they're drying in place, I'm putting on the supporting beams. As you can see, I'd already placed the ones next to the fuel tank on before I placed the fuel tanks in, and I'm just doing the same for the second lot now. Now these are placed in the exact same way as the ones on the front leading edge of the wing, so I'm just cutting them down to size and then using my pin drive to make the weight saving hole. There's a chevron type thing that goes up near the fuel tanks. You can see in the illustration there, it lays over the top. So this is what I'm making here now. So again, it's just a strip of plastic card, and I'm just marking out the chevrons, and I'll be cutting them out before fitting and painting. So dry fitting just before it's ready to go on. As you can see, it should just fit in between the two beams. So before I put on it, I'm going to have to fit in the other fuel tanks. As I said, I didn't have enough room to get 3 in a line, so I'm putting in an extra couple at the sides here. As I said, when I was making them, I decided to make 4. So they just butt up against the ones I've already placed in. I've painted the chevron on 99 aluminium by Revo Aquacolor before placing it inside. Now, make sure that it is flat on the beams, but just inside. So you want it not to be laying on top, you want it to be within the two beams. So having the extra fuel tanks in there helps secure the chevron. You can make it your contact point for the cement. So now that everything's in place, it's time to put in the other support beams, and these are the ones that are going to be running from end to end of the wing. So each space is going to have its own bar, so it's just a matter of taking a strip of plastic card, measuring it between the gaps, cutting it to size, drilling the weight saving hole, and then placing them in. So that's most of them in now, just placing the last one in. It's one of the smaller ones. I done most of this off camera because you've seen most of these beams go in, or the other beams should say go in. So now it's time to open up the holes of the engine at the rear where the exhaust part is. This is a pre-formed part. Of course, in the model itself it's all closed off because you wouldn't see it in here. So I've just opened it up with my initially with my drill bit, then using my knife, and I'll use a rounded file just to go around the hole to get rid of any borders. So I think this is a good place to bring part 6 to an end. All I've got to do now is paint the airframe, and I'm going to be painting that in Revo Aquacolor 99 aluminium. If you haven't done so already, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Not only will you be notified of the upcoming updates for this build, but also for any future builds. Also, check out the content on this channel. Hit that like button and leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.